Hey friends, it's been a minute since I talked about Big City Greens on this channel. I actually want to change that because this show is actually, weirdly enough, I think it's underrated. Despite how popular it is, I think it's a lot more popular with younger audiences because I don't really see too many people talking about this show. And since like less younger people have like a voice on social medias and whatnot, I feel like despite the fact that the videos on their YouTube channel and whatever get a lot of attention, I feel like just people don't appreciate the show as much, which is really sad because the characters are all really fascinating and interesting. But I wanted to talk about the season finale of season 3. Now, I know it's been a while since the finale of season 3 came out. Literally, season 4 is already airing, which I actually haven't started watching yet, but I'll have to catch up soon. But I wanted to talk about the ending to season 3 just because I really enjoyed the build up to it and the payoff from it and where it could lead into season 4 as well. So as a quick recap, in the middle of season 3, the Greens actually moved to the country. They were no longer the big city Greens. They were the big country Greens or whatever. I don't know. I made a couple videos on that and those episodes are really good, talking about how you have changed after moving, you know, they're growing up, and it wasn't just the country that has changed, it is also them that have changed. And I really appreciated that, and there were some really awesome episodes that came out of the latter half of season 3 that really added some growth for these characters, which I really appreciated. But anyways, to give you a quick synopsis of what the plot is like in this episode, basically, Remy and Grandma have to go back to Big City since their time in the country is all over, and the rest of the family are going to drive them there, except for Nancy. She's going to stay back and watch the farm. So they drive back to Big City, and before they drop off Grandma and Remy, they have a bit of a walk down memory lane. They go to all their different favorite places from Big City, one of them being like the vegetable stand or whatever, which I actually thought was really enjoyable because you got to see the Greens reunite with a lot of the old characters that we missed so much. Also, just a weird question, why is Keys buying that many lemons? Like, bro, what is wrong with you? And also, he got an anime haircut. Like, bro, why is Keys like actually like the best character in the show? I need to know why he's buying that many lemons. Like, I need to know. I literally need to know. Guys, put your theories in the comments. Like, at this point, I expect him to stuff this kid in his bag thinking he's a lemon. Like, oh my gosh. Anyways, so yeah, they get to reunite with a lot of their old friends, which is really cool. It's actually a bit of a touching moment if you've been like watching all the series and see how these characters get along. And you know, coming from a show that isn't really serialized, where it's completely episodic, it's really nice to see these character interactions building up on each other over the episodes as they go on, considering the fact that this is, like I said, more episodic. But there are, like, I shouldn't say serialized elements, you know, it is in an order, right? You know, these things that happen to the Greens do happen. It's not like Amazing World of Gumball where, like, you know, a monster attacks the city one week and then boom, you know, next episode that never happened, or like they treat it like it never happened. Whatever happens to the Greens in an episode, it happens. And I really appreciate that. I really love the consistency and continuity throughout the show, which is definitely noticeable in this episode. But to continue with the synopsis of the episode here, Gloria is actually waiting for Grandma to come back so she can sign some papers for her business, and Vasquez is holding a welcome back party for Remy, and both of them are running a little bit late due to Bill, Tilly, and Cricket all wanting to spend more time with their friends and family. So they're just not dropping them off. They're like, here, we gotta go and do all these things in Big City. You know, we still got time to do this. And it just keeps going on and on and on, getting more and more crazy. They keep doing more and more things to the point where they just don't want to say goodbye. So they're stalling as much as possible, which is making things really bad for Gloria and Vasquez. Because Vasquez wants Remy to come back, he's worried about Remy, and Gloria needs to sign these papers or else she's going to have to like redo her whole business situation, which is just going to take a lot of time and paperwork, and it's not something that you want to have happen. So she teams up with Vasquez to go and track down the Greens as Bill's literally going insane, driving like a madman, going off roads that don't exist, jumping over boats, like nearly crashing into walls. Like it's literally insane. But eventually they do, by coincidence, end up back at the Greens' house. Everything gets fixed. Remy gets to reunite with Vasquez. Gloria gets Alice to sign the papers. And then they get a bit of a lecture saying like, hey, you guys need to just get out of here. We love you, but go back home. You know, go back to your home. You are in the country now. We belong in the city. Get out of here. And this is when we get to the very heartfelt moment of the episode where at the end, they're driving back home and they're all not really saying too much to each other. They're all just a little sad, looking back at Big City and feeling a little, maybe homesick, you could say. And then the car actually breaks down. Well, not necessarily breaks down. It runs out of gas, which I actually appreciate this plot point a lot. I know it's something really small, but they could have just had like, oh, the car broke down. That's it. But no, the reason the car broke down was because they ran out of gas, because they were driving like lunatics earlier in the day. And since they were so focused on having their family time, they had no time to like get gas or anything. So they ran out of gas on their drive back to Smalton, which, you know, it probably isn't like anything crazy, but I just appreciated that little detail where it's just like, oh yeah, we're out of gas, because that's just like the logical thing that would happen in this scenario. But where they stop is on a road, which is 80 miles from Big City and 80 miles from Smalton. They are directly in between both. You could say they're at a crossroads where they could choose, potentially, where they would want to go. Do they want to return to Big City, or do they go to Smalton? Well, they call Nancy, and she drives over, gets some gas for the truck. And this is when Bill, Cricket, and Tilly finally share how they're feeling. That Big City felt like home to them, because they have been there for so long, and they know that the country is their home, but at this point, after spending so much time, making so many friends, that the city is also their home. And then Nancy actually does something really, really responsible, which was actually foreshadowed throughout Season 3B. Throughout the second half of the season, Nancy was actually becoming a lot more responsible. She was taking on more jobs at the farm, really supporting Bill and the others. Just doing her best that she could, you know, taking on more responsibilities and not just like, you know, running amok. She's still got, you know, that sort of Nancy attitude, but she really has, you know, had a bit of Bill rub off on her, I guess you could say. But after hearing her family voice her thoughts on Big City, she says, hey, why don't you guys return to the country? I'll watch the farm. And I just thought that was a really awesome character moment for her, because she knows, I don't like the city. I belong in the country. This is my home. This is where I belong. And becoming more responsible, she's okay with watching the farm. You know, she's got the know-how. She can do it. And it's going to be a lot of work, but, you know, it's something that she enjoys. And this gives the opportunity for Cricket and Tilly to get into so many more misadventures. And since these places are 160 miles apart, that's actually pretty far. Like, if you're driving 60 miles an hour, that's going to be a lot of distance that you gotta travel. Like, that's like a 2.5 hour trip, basically, if you're driving 60 miles an hour. So, yeah, it's pretty far, but because Nancy made this selfless decision to stay in the farm, you know, sit back and watch it, you know, the rest of the family can just go back and forth, which I think is really cool, because the sort of travel time doesn't really exist in the cartoon sphere. Like, we don't really have to worry about the fact that it takes 160 miles back and forth to just get to where they want to go. All that matters is that we can explore Big City now, and we can still explore Smalton. And that's what's so cool, is that they were so focused on what to label themselves, right? They were like, are we country folk in the city? Are we city folk in the country? What the heck does this make us now? And then Bill responds to that by saying, well, we're the Greens, which I think is just perfect, because throughout like this entire show, they've always been the Greens, right? You know, it reminds me of like the quilt, you know, when Cricket had to like stand up to Grandma or whatever, and that was like the Green family quilt. They've always been the Greens. It's always been about family, and to, I guess, a somewhat lesser extent, the friends as well. But, you know, mainly just family with the Greens. And I think that's perfect for the Greens, you know, having adapted to the city, being from the country. They're not just one type of person. They're the Greens. You know, you can't just put labels on people and expect them to stick to that, right? People adapt, people change, people grow. And I think that's just so cool represented in this show. And just another thing, being able to even have like 2 homes is so cool. Like, I guess, yeah, like Grandma is paying for like the one in Big City or whatever, but I just think it's so neat just to see how far the Greens have come. Starting from losing their home, being forced to move to the city and stay with Grandma, to being able to have a successful food stand, earn money by working on the farm that they had in the city, that they had to, you know, mainly Bill, I'm gonna guess, had to put like so much hours into. Then they get to finally expand by opening their home in the country, get another farm out there, and now they have both of these places to go to because their hard work paid off. Like, they didn't give up, even though they were faced with a lot of adversity, mainly being Chip Whistler, which at the end of this episode, I was so happy to see Chip Whistler, which for some reason has a grave. He has a gravestone out here. I don't know why he has a gravestone out here. I guess like people think he died. I'm not really sure how this happened, but we hear Chip Whistler has not given up his anger, his hate toward the Green family. So we are definitely going to be seeing the return of Chip in some way. I don't know what he can really do now that he doesn't have the corporation backing him. But, you know, knowing Chip, I'm sure he will find a way. And I'm so happy to see the return of Chip, right? Because after he got banned from Big City, the tensions from a lot of the episodes kind of just fell, right? Because Chip was like the running villain, right? He's like the main running villain. I really appreciated Chip. I think he's a really good villain. And it kind of just felt sad to be like, oh, well, now he's just gone. But when they got to go to Smallton in the start of Season 3B, one of my biggest things was like, can we see Chip return after this? I would love to see that, because now, if you think about it, like if it's a battle between the Greens versus Chip Whistler, like how it was in Chipocalypse, what happens if the Greens are sitting in Big City and Nancy is the only one tending to the farm, right? That means like she's gonna have, you know, to defend that turf all on her own if Chip has some weird thing that he's gonna try and do to it, if he's gonna try to destroy the farm or something. So now it's gonna be like, oh gosh, they have 2 turfs to defend. I don't know. I guess like he can't attack in Big City because he's banned from there, but like, what about their farm home? What's he gonna do to that? I don't know. Guess he's not gonna stop his vengeance until, you know, there's some ultimatum that stops him in the end. And I really appreciate that. I'm so happy that they're bringing Chip back. I think that's really, really cool. I don't think he's been back at all in Season 4 yet. I feel like I would have heard about that. I think only a few episodes of Season 4 have released, so I'm really excited to dig into Season 4 and see how this new format of both being in the country and the city works for the Greens here. So, yeah. No, this was a really awesome ending for the show. It not only opened up lots of different possibilities for the writers, but it also just gave a really nice closing to the season and a nice reminder of what this show is, just being about the Green family and about their story and about their growth. It's so good. And that's why this show is so underrated, because like nobody talks about this, right? Like we love our serialized shows, the big popular ones, people love that stuff. But this show has real heart, and I wish people would talk about it more because it's just so good. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. I probably could have said a lot more about this episode. There's so much. Definitely let me know what you think about this episode. I'm really curious to see what other people think, to see if they thought it was just as special or perhaps even more interesting. Maybe you saw some things that I missed in this episode. I didn't talk about everything. There are lots of little funny gags besides just Keys and his lemons. So yeah, just let me know what you thought about the episode. I thought it was really good. And hopefully we could talk a little bit more about Big City Greens on the future of this channel. So yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I'll catch you later. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.